In Paris, France, a team of Sébastien, Thomas and Marie decided to live a dream. Using two discoveries, this team is called Wanaume, meaning people. This team was led by Sébastien LEDOUX and his childhood friend, Thomas Millet.
Hello, I'm Sébastien. I'm 28 years old and I am at the origin of this trip around the world.
I am doing this trip for many reasons. I want to discover the world, other civilization, other people, different way of living.
We do this trip because we want to do it and because we want to enjoy and we want to meet people around the world, to have different views, different interests, and to see different kind of civilization all around and different way of living. But behind that, the main one is just enjoy.
Right from the start, the team knew they would have to rely on their cars not only as sleeping and transport, but as companions.
I get my driving lesson like 6 months before leaving, so it was first time I drive a 4x4, first time everything.
Maybe the big issue is how do you want to enjoy your life? Because I think everybody wants to enjoy. Now the issue and the question is how do you want this to happen? And our answer is make it happen.
And the first country on the sands of Arabia was Syria. The melting pot of the ancient world. Romance and history still stalk this land, from echoes of the Crusader battles with their castles perched on mountaintops and Roman ruins on the lowlands.
I think it was the best country to start with because it's a very tough country. It's dusty, it's a desert, it's very difficult, hard living there, but the people are exactly the opposite of that. They are very warm, they welcome you all over the place, and there's such an interesting culture in this country that you just, when you leave Syria, you just feel, I miss too many things, so I will have to come back. And you just never get fed up with that, so it's the perfect country to start Middle East.
The first town to meet our adventurers was Aleppo. Aleppo is the second largest city in Syria after Damascus, with a population of 3 million. Armenian is a common language in this city. Our travellers found that with the divergence of religions, it's a miracle to see such bonhomie and understanding in this country. Even to the extent that the language of the Bible, Aramaic, is still spoken in some of the smaller villages.
They live together very well, so it's nice, even if they don't believe in the same thing.
Even though 25% of Aleppo is Christian, the city echoes to the sound of the call to prayer all over the town from the mosques. A choral symphony reminding all the faithful of their Creator and their purpose in life. Dominating the skyline, the Citadel is the largest single building in Aleppo. It has a moat, now dry, which is spanned by a bridge to the 12th century gate. This monument to the glory of past Aleppo leads us to the fabulous covered souk of the old city. Fabled in the times when caravans would use Aleppo as a stop on their way northwards, these souks were the motels and resting places for the merchants and caravan traders. It is here, in these domed alleyways, that traders thousands of years ago stayed the night, rested their camels, to buy, shop and sell on these streets. And here too, our travellers were able to experience the falafel sandwiches in the vegetable souk and see the hubbub of life in this ancient town. Faith is never far away from the peoples and the history of the Middle East, especially in a land which has a tradition of Abrahamic religions, from Adam through to Muhammad. And adventure and unusual practices can be found. St. Simeon, the largest Christian church in the Middle East when it was built in the 4th century. Built to commemorate St. Simeon Stylites, who decided to venerate God by standing on a pillar for 36 years in 423 AD. And this rock is supposed to mark one of the original pillars of his bizarre devotion. The Wanaume team next visited Palmyra. Incomparable ruins show its history as an Assyrian caravan town, and then a Roman and Greek city, which was finally destroyed by an earthquake in 1089. The largest temple still standing is the Temple of Bel, commemorating the god whose role was to protect the city. These ruins date from 32 AD. A voyage of discovery meets otherworld travellers en route to Marmousa. Our Wanaume team met a Swiss cyclist who'd been riding around the world for 10 years. Next stop was off-road. Away from people and cities, the team headed for the isolated Marmousa monastery.
It's a very nice monastery where people go to think a little bit, to just for reflection, but it's also a very nice area because it's very funny. I mean, Father Paolo is very, very interesting. He's a very funny guy.
This Christian monastery believes that using Arabic to pray, and in certain services ancient Aramaic, the language of Jesus, they're providing a spiritual home for the major religions of the world. At the time of filming, 12 nationalities passed through these ancient gates. Marmousa is run like a commune, where everyone has their household duties, and then prays or studies Islam or Christianity for the rest of the day.
Là, dans ce couloir qui est encore à étoffer, il y a les sciences humaines.
Marmousa is an unusual experiment, blending past and present. Moving on to Lebanon, one of the most conquered lands on our planet. Home to the ancient Phoenicians, this country, like the mythical phoenix, has constantly reinvented itself and survived. Industrious people, the ancient Phoenicians developed the phonetic script, which is the basis of our alphabet today. And now, with peoples of Christian, Armenian, Syrian and Arabic backgrounds, Lebanon has determined to rise again from the ashes of its wars. Byblos is the oldest working port in the world. North of Beirut, this 7,000-year-old settlement was a trading hub for the ancient world. From this port, cedar wood and oil were shipped to Egypt and Greece. The name of the port, Byblos, comes from the Greek word bublos, meaning papyrus, the Egyptian paper, which was shipped from here to Athens. And it's also this word, bublos, that gives us the name Bible. Lebanese music has become famous throughout the world. And here our team met a master oud maker. An oud is the Middle Eastern origin of the mandolin. With 12 strings, it is an instrument of mournful melody, reaching musical heights in the Arab Golden Age. Oud comes from the Arabic al-oud, meaning a branch of wood. With handcrafted precision and love, these instruments are internationally valued. And other traditional arts are still to be found in Lebanon. In Fakirhe, where the last handmade carpets are made in Lebanon, keeping up time-honoured traditions to make carpets of oriental beauty. From Ras Baalbek, the two discoveries headed upwards to view the famous cedars of Lebanon. Trees which can grow at over 2,000 meters altitude. They provided wood for the Temple of Solomon. Throughout the Arab world, there is a traditional hospitality to strangers. Even in the rocky wastes of Petra, an ancient and flourishing trading town, you will hear the Arabic welcome, Ahlan wa Sahlan. Hewn from a towering rock wall, Petra is a testament to the one-time wealth of the ancient capital of the Nabateans, a nomadic tribe from Western Arabia. Building an enormous city in the 3rd century BC, Petra, meaning stone in Greek, is protected by a wadi entrance, in places only 5 meters wide, between soaring 200-meter cliffs. A living monument out of red sandstone, Petra made its wealth from silk, gold, spice and frankincense caravans. A series of earthquakes, culminating in a massive one in 550 AD, finally caused the city to be abandoned. Uncovered by archaeologists in the late 1950s, Petra has become one of the most popular tourist destinations in Arabia. Jordan was a milestone for our Wanaume travellers. For here was the beginning of their route through the Great Rift Valley, which they would see in Africa. A gigantic crack in the Earth's crust, the Rift Valley stretches 7,000 kilometres, from Jordan to Malawi in Africa. This break in the Earth's crust contains the lowest sea on Earth, the Dead Sea, 340 metres below sea level. Fed by the waters of the Jordan River, but with no outlet, the water has become so salty that it is 30% solid, making it possible to float in unusual positions. Eastern Arabia is left behind us as our Wanaume team head through Saudi Arabia to the United Arab Emirates.
UAE are very, very different to any other countries in Middle East. It's the only one where you have a huge contrast. You've got huge, big buildings like in Hong Kong or New York, and just take your car, drive 10-15 minutes, you're in the middle of an oasis with people that are still walking in some fields in the middle of the desert. And that's absolutely amazing. And you have old men smoking shisha on an old boat. Everything is wood and looks very, very old. And just above their heads is the top of the big, huge Twin Towers. So, and that's about, I think that's the biggest feeling that we had with UAE is the huge contrast that they have over time.
Next is Oman. Long, unspoiled coastlines, dramatic mountains, and dry riverbeds, or wadis, distinguish Oman from much of Arabia. For centuries, a trading and fishing centre, Oman was home to the legendary Sinbad the Sailor. Traditional hospitality again met the Wanaume team. When they set up camp, Suleiman, a local Omani, stayed with them, helping them to collect firewood and chatting through the night. Fishing is still the mainstay of Oman's coast, and in a fusion of old and new, a Land Rover Defender is used to haul up millions of fish onto the shore, caught in traditional nets. Travelling along a dry wadi, Tamar took advantage of a freshwater spring. Wadis are normally dry riverbeds, but from the heights of the Hajar Mountains, fresh water tumbles into these arid valleys and collects in rock pools. From hospitality, fun, and the traditional shisha, the Arab hubbly bubbly, to bathing in irrigation water supply for palms, Oman would still offer another adventure. At the north of Oman is the empty quarter, or the Rub al Khali, the largest sand desert in the world.
When we went on this trip in the desert, we didn't know what was about to come. We had no ideas about what the desert would look like. We went in Liwa in the UAE, but it was just a small part of it. And entering a big desert like the empty quarter on the Omani side was something absolutely amazing.
The empty quarter, the Rub al Khali, it's an amazing place. I always wanted to photograph some sand dunes and to stay in the middle of nowhere in the desert, and it was amazing. Amazing. And to do something that nobody can do, or few people did, it's nice to think about that.
Haunted by hostile tribes throughout the 19th century and before, this vast expanse of desert dunes was finally conquered by Wilfred Thesiger. One of the greatest explorers in the history of Arabia, he crossed the empty quarter with a group of Bedouins from the Rashid tribe, the first European to do so by camel.
It was absolutely amazing driving there, driving up a 250-meter sand dune and meeting some in the middle of nowhere. After 500 kilometers, we just ended on in a village with Bedouins. And those Bedouins actually were the same Bedouins from the Rashid tribe that were along with Thesiger 50 years ago when he first came into this desert. So all around this way, we found some hints and some clues and some kind of testimonies about Thesiger's trek in this area, and that was wow. That was definitely a wow thing about our trip. But the thing is about Thesiger's that that marks us much more is that he also says that without the comradeship of his companions, the men from the Rashid tribe, he would have feel that this area would have been as meaningless as a piece of stone.
But also warning the dispatcher.
So, and that's all about, and that we feel also in this area, in this desert, and in this country, in Oman.
So everything.
What gives your trip or your travel or whatever, what gives sense to it is the people and the meeting that you can do, and the story that they can tell you, and the moments that you share with them. And that's what makes you keep going.
Today, it is a different world, with paved roads bordering the garnet dunes for hundreds of miles, which gave our travellers an idea: rollerblading. The Wanaume voyage of discovery pushed forward to Yemen. Skirting the seashore, the team came across the oldest form of transport in the desert, the camel. The single largest influence in Arabian trade and survival, this ship of the desert can live in the most arid conditions, is adapted to desert life, and is also a supply of food. Our travellers began to experience the rugged grandeur of Yemen. One of the earliest inhabited regions on the globe, Yemen's origins are biblical, with one of the first inhabitants being Shem, Noah's son. In 628, Yemen became a Muslim country and has remained so ever since. Despite many invasions, occupations and civil strife, Yemen is now a unified country which is opening its door to the rest of the world. A tribal country, Yemen has a history of capturing tourists for ransom, although our travellers found the Yemeni people friendly and helpful, and even supplied a police escort through part of the so-called rebel territory. Split by the fertile Hadramaut Valley, the north of Yemen is fertile, while the south is more arid. Passing through villages which are as old as the Bible and the Quran, the team found rural life as unchanged as it must have been centuries ago. Using time-honoured methods of building with mud bricks, the people here are unsophisticated and often shy. Unlike the nomadic Bedouin with their tents, Yemeni tribes built houses and have been settled in one place for centuries. Music is an intrinsic part of Yemeni life. Some scholars believe that the origin and style of Arabic music and the lute came from Yemen. Original songs and flutes are still part of the everyday life of the Yemeni. But it is in Sana'a, one of the oldest preserved walled cities in the Arab world, that the Wanaume team met the variety and energy of Yemeni life.
Yemen is definitely the most amazing and interesting country we've been for any kind of reasons. A huge diversified landscapes, amazing people, very interesting culture, an extraordinary architecture. And for the first time, because we've been escorted by a military guy for 15 days that was staying 24 hours a day with us, so he was sleeping, cooking, everything with us. And that was the first time. It was absolutely amazing and interesting to live all the time with local people, real Yemenis. And there were Arabic teachers, they were talking and teaching about their country and the traditions and the way of life. And for us, we spent 37 days in Yemen. And it's definitely the countries, I think, from which we've got the biggest and the nicest memories.
From the lowlands of Sana'a to the rugged heights of the old capital, Taiz. The name Taiz means most beautiful and favoured. Now a university town, its market is still a medley of colour and traditions. Almost Chinese in the way the hills are terraced, Taiz at 1400 metres was another discovery of Arabia. But perhaps one of the great wonders of this part of the world is the Yemeni architecture. soaring upwards on often impossible sights. The first skyscraper in the world was built in Yemen 2,000 years ago, out of mud bricks. At the top of the house is the room with a good view, where men meet in the afternoon to chat, discuss politics and city affairs, while they chew khat. Yemen is famous for its khat chewing, a narcotic weed. It is an essential part of Yemeni hospitality and life. Our team tried this social custom. It is chewed and stored in the mouth until the mild narcotic takes effect. But it was only Marie who noticed an impact. The rest of the team compared it to a visit to the dentist. From the incredible peoples and buildings of Yemen, the Wanaume team felt Africa in the wind and headed for Kenya. Africa, a land of many faces and creatures, from the lush wetlands and lakes to the vast plains of swaying grass. This continent is alive in every moment, from sunset to dawn. One of the seats of original humanity, Kenya is a rich source of legend and beauty. Populated by a variety of peoples and split by the Rift Valley, which starts in Jordan and ends in Mozambique, perhaps the most dominant influence in Kenya was the arrival of the Arab traders in the 7th century AD. This resulted in an Afro-Arab language called Swahili, which is still used along the coast and interior.
Kenya is crowded, colorful, humid. It was so hard. And nice beaches and very different people. People in Middle East are very warm inside, but the outside is quite hard. When you come into Africa, you see people with a smile from one side to the other side of their face, and that's amazing.
The arrival of the discoveries from Yemen, Kikuyu and Kikaya. Kikuyu is aptly named, as it means people in a local Kenyan language.
But if we knew that it will have that person here, over there, we will have to take this road.
The first stop was Ukunda, a little village near the famous Diani beach. Our travellers experienced firsthand the feelings, colours and touch of Africa, from coral and mud architecture to village life. Just as music and hospitality represented the peoples of Arabia, the carving of local sights and animals has become a signature of Kenya. And then to Samburu National Park, arid grassland set in the hot north of the country. Oryx, one of nature's great survivors, with rapier-sharp horns, are specially adapted to withstand heat of any condition through a remarkable cooling element in their heads. Home to a myriad of wildlife, this park hosts the famous Grevy's zebra, with its tufted outside ears and fine markings. And it is here that our visitors first saw the reticulated giraffe, noted for their patchwork patterns, different from the giraffes further south in Africa. A cheetah, which can hunt at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour, strolls nonchalantly through the bush. With its wealth of wildlife, Samburu was another discovery for the Wanaume team. Amboseli National Park. Well-watered plains under the canopy of yellow fever trees. And in the distance, the majestic peaks of Mount Kilimanjaro, towering 5,896 meters above sea level. Amboseli was a traditional cattle grazing ground for the indigenous Maasai, but is now a dedicated game park for world travellers and tourists. The African elephant drinks 160 litres of water a day. These animals are matriarchal, communicate by stomach gurgles to each other, and have a strong family instinct.
There's some names that I think put me on this trip, and some of those names are Kilimanjaro, Serengeti, and Ngorongoro. This is some kind of the spirit of Africa, some essence.
And it was in Amboseli that the Wanaume team made a local impact. On the way to church, this bus broke down. The Discovery pulled out the vehicle, and the delighted bunch of worshippers went off on their merry way. Africa. This trip was a milestone in the discovery of peoples and places. Journeying north through Lake Nakuru National Park, the team met some of the hope of Africa. The children.
My name is Nelson the Jungle.
My name is called Benson the Name. My name is Tony Bet. My name is Petra. My name is Kasan Gabrito. My name is Brian. My name is Kirpas.
Kuja.
My name is
Salina. My name is Salina.
My name is Frederick. My name is Alex.
Sema Kibet.
My name is Immaculate.
Meeting people was part of the whole Wanaume experience, such as the exotic Maasai, who have refused to embrace the modern world. A tribe which is fiercely proud of its heritage. The Maasai are traditional cattle herders and do not believe in the ownership of land. They believe all the earth belongs to the Creator, and they're merely tending it. Then, for one of the adventures of the trip, climbing Mount Kenya, the second highest peak in Africa. Over 5,000 meters high, this is a wonderland of different environments and weather conditions, and vegetation. Formed nearly 3 million years ago, Mount Kenya is one of the few mountains in Africa with glaciers, moving rivers of ice. The vegetation changes according to the altitude and ranges from bare landscapes to heather outcrops, grassland, and the amazing giant lobelias. The mountain in Kikuyu folklore has a romantic history for the peoples of this land. Believed to be the home of the spirit Ngai, aged local Kikuyu tribesmen are often seen praying on the slopes. Hard climbing and a do-it attitude are needed for this adventure. Rain, cold, and fiercely unpredictable weather makes this climb one of the most exciting and tough challenges for our travellers. Danger is never far away on this mountain, as constant rain and mist can be fatal to the unwary. At over 5,000 metres, the pace has to be taken slowly to avoid altitude sickness.
Nous sommes à 4985 mètres.
Mission accomplished. Wanaume discovered the breathtaking experience of climbing a snow-clad mountain on the equator.
C'est sympa quand même.
On through the vast savannah of Kenya to the Masai Mara, perhaps the most famous of Kenya's national parks. With skies as immense as a Maasai god, it is dense with wildlife. Generally vilified as being ugly and mean, just as in the animated films, the hyena is a fascinating creature. Hyenas are believed to steal from lions. In fact, it is often the other way. Lions frequently take a hyena's kill. The clan is matriarchal, run by high-ranking females. When you see a feeding frenzy of hyenas, it's because the women eat first and low-ranking males have to fight to get a fair share.
Being so close to animals is something that is very interesting because you're on another level of the trip. We've been traveling about and talking about people in all Middle East, and now Africa is also about animals.
When?
Following the Rift Valley, which is one of the great divides of our world, the Wanaume team visited the largest country in East Africa, Tanzania. Dar es Salaam is the main town on the coast, and in Arabic means haven of peace. It was only in the mid-19th century that this small fishing village became a prominent base for traders. In 1860, Sultan Said Majid from Zanzibar developed the harbour for easier access to the interior for the infamous slave trade. Despite its mottled history, it is a peaceful country and provided rich images for Tamar for the Wanaume magazine. Boasting one of the most varied forms of flora and fauna in Africa, from the soaring Mount Kilimanjaro to the lazy shores of white sand, Tanzania also offered another glimpse of Africa. From the feared crocodile, disguised in rippling water, to the territorial hippopotamus, which accounts for more human fatalities in African rivers than the crocodile. It was in the vast Serengeti plains that our travellers witnessed the wildebeest migration. World famous, this migration occurs when millions of blue-headed wildebeest, or gnus, migrate through the park for better grazing. The word gnu comes from the sound they make when they're startled.
We saw the migration. It was very, in the middle of 2 million of gnu. It was, what is that? And you saw 2 million of gnu, and on the rock you have 2 lions. It's like in the Lion King of Walt Disney.
Further south is the Ngorongoro crater. Only 20 kilometers wide, yet within the walls of this extinct volcano is a breathtaking array of animals. Symbols of tribal Africa, the Maasai have the reputation of being fierce warriors and hunters. Their traditional dance, some said to train them to avoid charging animals, is taught to young men. Traditional ways are still maintained because the Tanzanian government has allowed the Maasai to graze their cattle in the Ngorongoro Reserve. But there are challenges ahead. In other parts of the country, the Maasai are finding it difficult to live in their traditional way because of the pressure on land. What future will these children have in a continent which is striving for development? Throughout this trip, the two discoveries were home to our travellers. Passing through the deserts of Arabia to the subtropical soils of Africa, the vehicles were more than just methods of transport.
Okay, my discovery is called Kikaya, and I really like this car because this is my home, my office, my everything. I do everything inside, and I pass most of the time in this car. So it's one of my best friends, actually.
I think it was much more difficult to choose the team than to choose the cars, because somehow the cars, that was obvious that it would have to be Land Rovers.
And the Wanaume team continued south to embrace the warm heart of Malawi. New landscapes, people, and to one of the longest lakes in the Great Rift Valley, the fresh waters of Lake Malawi. The name Malawi was inspired by the local word Malawi, which means haze or reflected light. Lake Malawi is the third largest lake in Africa, 570 kilometres long. The last lake in the Great Rift Valley, this body of water supports the main industry of the people, fishing.
Vas-y, mets-toi la hanche d'un côté.
La hanche?
Ouais. Ouais.
On va à Mozambique?
C'est où le Mozambique?
Là-bas.
A photographic delight and a real chill-out place, Malawi was one of the favourite destinations of our team. The Wanaume team then visited the tea plantations, introduced during the colonial era, which provide a profitable and tasty export for Malawi. In a landlocked country, ranging from a lowest point of 37 metres above sea level, near the Mozambican border, the 3,000-metre soaring mountains of the highlands are the ideal setting for the tea plantations. One of the most famous teas in the world, Chisunga, is grown here. It is world famous for its malty, almost neutral flavour, and it is used in many international tea blends. The two discoveries, Kikaya and Kikuyu, carried our team south, through the African night and dawn, through Zambia to the Zambezi River, for another unique African experience. An elephant's eye view.
It's just more broader, it's not very tall, it's more broader.
Although the African elephant is not as docile as the Indian elephant, travellers can still walk through the Mapani and Masasa forests bordering the Zambezi River.
No.
Hello, how are you? Fine. Welcome to Zimbabwe.
But more was to come.
So I always wanted to do the bungee because I don't know. Because maybe I'm crazy.
On verra. Hein. Après, je te dirai ça après.
The bungee jumping, there was no way for me to jump. And I told Thomas wanted to do it. I told him, even if you give me $1 million, I won't do it. And so I don't know why, but I did it. And wow, I mean, you just come on the board, and the guy is counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bungee!
And I jumped, and it's only 6 seconds, but it sounds like it's a lifetime. And after 4 seconds, you just realize that you don't even shout. It's crazy, but I don't think I would do it again.
The famous Victoria Falls, discovered in 1855 for the Western world by the missionary and explorer David Livingstone. This incredible falls is 1.7 kilometers wide, and after the rainy season is the greatest curtain of falling water in the world. And from this dizzying drop, the water rushes headlong through to the gorges.
Kayaking and wide water this is my field. I like that. But when I went on the Zambezi, I didn't thought that it would be like that. I mean, I saw the biggest wave I've ever seen in my life. The name is something like Terminator. It's amazing. It's a good name because, and your boat is flopping over and there's no chance for you to escape from that.
From the excitement of the wildest whitewater run in the world, the Wanaume team headed for Botswana. Ferrying Kikaya and Kikuyu across the Zambezi, they headed for this gem of Africa. Botswana is one of the wealthiest countries in southern Africa. A treasure trove of diamonds has ensured the country's prosperity. Open-cast mining such as this one at Aleppo Diamond Mine began in 1967 and provides employment for the Tswana people. Botswana is so wealthy that it lends money to the International Monetary Fund.
The activities of the fund are actually coordinated for months and for hold on. And all the tanks are inside.
From the mining to the sorting to the cleaning, this operation has guaranteed Botswana's prosperity. The 600,000 square kilometers of this country offers a varied range of geography. From typical African savanna to salt pans and the lush Okavango Delta, Botswana is one of the main tourist attractions in southern Africa. In Zulu, the word sua means salt, and it is here in the northeast of Botswana that there is the sua pan. Covered in a layer of soda ash, our team found Kubu Island, in the middle of a desert sea of ash. Gigantic baobabs, some over 2,000 years old, are the only inhabitants of this island. African myth tells us that God was angry and threw these trees from heaven, and they landed upside down with their roots in the sky. As sunset bathes its last glow over the pan, Tomar prepares fire for the Wanaume night on Kubu Island. Overnight, the rain has come, and the salt-encrusted mud now holds the water reflecting the sky above. But it is time to move on, and this time to Mojimela Lodge to do some sport, abseiling.
There's one chance out of 100 that when I go down, it will stay here.
Won't stay.
But it is, without doubt, the Okavango Delta which has the most profound effect on travellers. The region is an Eden, surrounded entirely by desert. Journeying 1,000 miles from Angola, the Okavango River is halted by the sands of Botswana to create a water paradise the size of Switzerland. Travelling in dugout canoes called makoros through the clear, shallow water, the Wanaume team allowed the magic of the light and peace of Botswana to conquer them. From the lush waterways of Botswana to the extraordinary wastes of Namibia, only independent since 1989, this country is predominantly desert and is the oldest arid region on this earth, being 80 million years old. The Wanaume team saw the Namib Desert at its driest in the Etosha National Park in northern Namibia. A large salt pan, the word Etosha means great white place of dry water. This 20,000 square kilometre park is completely arid. Even when the rain does fall, the water becomes nearly as salty as that of the Dead Sea in Jordan. Waterholes, however, support over 114 species of mammal. And this includes the protected white rhino, which has been reintroduced into the park for breeding and protection. Sought after by poachers, the rhino is killed for its matted hair horn, which some cultures believe has medicinal properties. It was a rare and delightful surprise to see a young calf with its mother in this park. The cold Atlantic Ocean washes the shores of Namibia and is host to one of the richest fishing grounds and diamond sources in the world. It is here that the Cape Fur seals breed. Actually not a seal at all, but a sea lion. These sleek creatures consume more than 1 million tons of fish every year along these coasts. It is from the cold Atlantic that comes a phenomenon that waters the vegetation of Namibia: the mist. When the cold air, rising from the sea, meets the heat of the interior, it turns into a life-giving mist, which provides moisture for the desert plants. Africa is a continent of surprises.
It was the perfect mix between Middle East and Africa. So even if you have some different deserts in Africa, for us, desert is definitely something about Middle East. Huge sand dunes and oasis and everything. And we find all that in Namibia, in Sossusvlei.
Featured in many international films and commercials, this area is renowned for the changing colour of its scenery.
Bon, il est énorme, hein. Il fait 500 km de long.
Je prends ça comme bureau aussi.
With foreboding names like Deathvlei and mountains of sand over 340 metres high. At dawn, these dunes can be a bruised blue colour, and by sunset, they have turned garnet red. And from Namibia to the southernmost point of Africa, Cape Town. After 10 months of travelling, the Wanaume team and their discoveries had covered 40,000 kilometres.
I think I'm living a dream, I'm living a great adventure.
A voyage of discovery, living the dream.
The good thing is that it's not just a dream, it's our life.